All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday. It is Meme War Monday. And what do we talk about with the Meme Wars, Cameron?
Usually memes.
Well, so the point to Meme War Monday from its inception. Let me turn this other light on. Oh, yeah, that's much better. See, I know how to operate a set. Damn it. Anyway, so what the Meme War is really supposed to be about is the ongoing propaganda war uh, waged on both sides, right? We are in the midst still of a propaganda war. Uh, Alex Jones, I think his first channel, I think his original website was called uh, Prison Planet, and then it was Infowars. Is that right? Yeah, but he really put his finger on something with the Infowars thing. We are in the midst of an active propaganda war and have been for some time, and it's not going any colder. So I just looked over at the comments. There's Danny. The left can't meme. Danny, you are correct. So,
Yeah, they're terrible at it. But
um,
they can propaganda.
they
Because
can propaganda.
there's two contexts to the word meme. There's the meme that we see shared around the Facebooks and the Instagrams and whatnot. Um, but then there's the larger meta truth that a meme is. And a meme is really an idea that takes hold and is easily conveyed. We call these little pictures memes, like the Picard facepalm or whatever, because it conveys so much so quickly with just an image and some words. But it's not the little cute picture that is the meme. It's the idea that's the meme.
So the word meme and its usage in that parlance actually comes from Richard Dawkins, who okay, there's a lot to be said about Richard Dawkins that's very, very negative. The fact of the matter is his work around this idea of the meme is is actually solid work. And the idea of the meme is sort of a genetic concept. A meme, according to Dawkins, is something akin to an idea which can propagate itself. And the word meme referring to such an idea as the basic level code or the gene of concepts. So when you're looking at a funny meme on the internet, we call the thing that you're looking at, the image with some text on it, is usually what we think of when we say meme. We call that a meme, but that's really sort of a colloquial misnomer. Like Cameron alluded, the kernel of information within that meme that is self-propagating, and coupled with the fact that because you're amused or intrigued or entertained by the meme, you personally want to spread the meme, is that's why we have the word viral content. That's what it means for content to go viral, right? So understanding that in the context of producing propaganda is incredibly important. And let's be real, part of what we do here is technically the production of propaganda. I have a background in it. And I like to think of what we do as what I call propaganda. You may have heard me use that word once or twice before, and I will continue to use it. Steve mentions a mimetic device. Sort of. The concept of a mimetic device predates Dawkins' work and does lend its linguistics to the general nomenclature used by Dawkins. Um, so yes, sort of, but it's not technically short for mimetic device contextually. The what Dawkins means by meme is he actually meant the word meme to be its own word, which which replicates the concept of gene as the smallest unit of biological information into a sort of the smallest unit of intellectual information. So, but yes, he did lift the word meme is his using that that linguistic trick of the mimetic device in a sort of pun coupled with the pronunciation of the word gene to come up with something that is frankly a meme in and of itself.
So what's the meme this morning, sir? What's the idea?
So we're gonna get a little bit broader view than the very, very particular and meticulous level of the meme, and get up into the some of the higher concepts. And we'll discuss if we have time. We are on a little bit of a crunch this morning, but if we have time to get down to the level of the memes, I'd enjoy that. I want to start before I broach the main subject. I want to put this very clearly in everybody's vision. Just follow along with me for a minute here.
In tonight's Fact or Fiction video, Nancy Pelosi.
Skip
You
it.
smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported.
Some websites are sending around this video as proof the Democrats made up the assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. That is fiction. The video, while real, actually shows Pelosi last year accusing Republicans of using wrap-up smears. She was not.
Okay, yeah, and in that accusation against Republicans for using wrap-up smears, she absolutely 100% confessed to the Democrats using wrap-up smears. And yes, they both do. They do, in fact, both do it. That's like the Chinese Communist Party coming out and saying the Americans are terrible people because their military has guns. Wait. But
your military has guns.
Right? I mean, that's the equivalent of the accusation she's making here. Yes, it is a thing that both sides do. And what she's really talking about is something more akin to the rate at which one monetizes disinformation. So, now let's get into a little more of what's going on that we want to talk about this morning, and how this is part of a similar propaganda campaign. And then I want to dig into some of the inferences and implications that we can take away from this.
For more on the Biden transition, we turn to Nicole Killian. She's traveling with the president-elect in Wilmington, Delaware. And Nicole, Mr. Biden's plan.
Hang on, I don't think y'all had the audio from the beginning of that.
For more on the Biden transition, we turn to Nicole Killian. She's traveling with the president-elect in Wilmington, Delaware. And Nicole, Mr. Biden's planning a major announcement this week.
President-elect Joe Biden is expected.
Okay, we are 12 seconds into this video, and we've already had both of them lie. Did you catch it, Cameron?
No, I can't see the video.
Oh, you can't hear it either. I'm sorry. They each... Okay. They both said, both of the reporters on screen called him the president-elect. Right? That's the lie. That's not a small lie, as we'll get into in just a minute. That's a very, very, very big lie.
Expected to name some members to his cabinet Tuesday. Top advisors won't say how many or which positions. Last week, the president-elect said that he has already selected his Treasury Secretary. He said it was someone who would be accepted by moderates and progressives in the Democratic Party. CBS News has learned one of the top contenders is Federal Reserve Board Governor Lael Brainerd. There's also former Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen. As for Secretary of State, the president-elect's top foreign policy advisor, Tony Blinken is a front runner, and former ambassador to the UN Susan Rice remains in the mix. Some of the president-elect's former Democratic rivals like Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders are also vying for top posts. Whoever the president-elect names could face more hurdles. Transition aides point out that they can't get background checks until the General Services Administration recognizes the president-elect. Jamie?
And there, right there at the end, she even fact-checked herself. She said they can't do X, Y, and Z until the General Services Commission recognizes the president-elect, which they have not. And more to the point, there's a lot of noise going on in the news that Donald Trump is delaying or hindering the transition. Right? Donald Trump is obstructing President Biden's. No. Donald Trump has not conceded. Right?
Right.
So we do have a historic tradition of of candidates conceding on election night or first thing the next morning but that's only when there has been a very clear winner. Guys, the handful of states that Biden and Trump are still at odds over, the margins in several of them are minuscule. The margin in Georgia is less than 0.5%. So the idea that this is a foregone conclusion is not correct. The idea that Joe Biden won clearly that's pure propaganda. And the claims that are constantly made by the media right now that Donald Trump is alleging fraud and misconduct in the election without evidence, that's a lie. That is a false statement.
All right, buddy, we're coming up on 15 minutes in.
So here's what's really interesting. The Biden campaign is crowdsourcing, is raising money. Your contribution will benefit Biden-Harris transition. $15, $25, $50, $100, $250, grand, $5,000. You know what's really interesting about these numbers? 5,000. Anything strike you as interesting about that number, Cameron?
I thought the cap was like $4,200.
It is to an election campaign. This is not technically an election campaign anymore. What Biden is doing here is fraud on several levels. Right? I will allege in this case, absolutely, the intent. I will call this fraud, not misconduct, because the clear intent here is to create the illusion that the Biden-Harris transition fundraiser is not subject to FEC rules. But I would also point out, I don't know if I could zoom in big enough for you to really read the words. I know that you can't see it, Cameron, but everybody else. That right there. Act Blue Civics is a registered charitable organization formed to democratize social welfare giving. Act Blue. Anybody recognize that name? Cameron?
No.
You don't recognize the name Act Blue?
No.
They are the charitable organization that did all of the fundraising for Black Lives Matter and the Biden campaign. Right? And I know there's some nuance there. They're not actually connected. Yes, they are connected. That's not technically how they're connected. There's nuance there. The fact of the matter, however, is that, yes, 100%.
No.
You don't recognize the name Act Blue? Act Blue was fundraising for both the DNC and for Black Lives Matter, right? So they're using this to fundraise for a transition team because Joe Biden is not the president-elect. In fact, that they are conducting this crowdfunding campaign is a patent admission that Joe Biden calling himself the president-elect is a fraud. Not only it shows that not only is he incorrect to call himself the president-elect, but he knows that he is incorrect to call himself the president-elect because he and his team, including his legal team and his campaign team, are aware that he does not yet meet the legal requirements to begin using the taxpayer funding to process the establishment of his legal team. He's fundraising on the claim that he is the president-elect, knowing that to be a false statement. This is fraud. This is 100% fraud.
Okay.
And
so,
hang on, and just one step further, I want everybody to think back to what was it that got General Flynn in trouble? They accused him, and as we know from the meeting records now, on Biden's suggestion, they accused Flynn of violating the Hatch Act, which is he represented himself to foreign powers as a representative of the United States of America. Their claim at the time being that Donald Trump had not yet been sworn in, had not yet been inaugurated. Now, there's a key difference here. When Flynn was making contact with foreign dignitaries, Donald Trump was the president-elect, certified, legit, completely 100%. Hillary Clinton had conceded. Donald Trump was the president-elect. There were no credible allegations or investigations into trying to overturn the election. He was on point. There was not a circumstance at that time under which Donald Trump might not have been inaugurated on January 20th of 2017. Quite differently here, what you have is every member that signs on as part of Joe Biden's transition team before the question of his actual officiality of being the president-elect is in violation of the Hatch Act. Now, to be clear, no one has ever been prosecuted successfully under the Hatch Act. It's a bogus law. But that's the situation we find ourselves in right now.
Okay, but here's how I would push back on that. It's very, very important that state of mind is huge in fraud. There has to be bad faith, and if I were Biden's lawyer, this is me practicing law without a license, but if I were Biden's lawyer, I'd say this is not fraud. This is unusual, but it's not fraud. It appears, putting all the shenanigans aside, it appears as though Joe Biden won the popular vote. It appears as though Joe Biden has won the Electoral College. And there are several reputable media outlets reporting that he has won the popular vote, reporting that he has won the Electoral College. So to make some assumptions as though he is functionally the president-elect, if not yet technically legally the president-elect, that basically says you don't have a bad faith argument anymore.
Functionally the president-elect? So we just let random news outlets dictate our U.S. policy and law now.
Oh, obviously not. But there's a state of mind required for fraud, and to say that they're going ahead and assuming based on the available evidence and the way the evidence is being presented to the public, I don't see how it's fraud. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Do I personally think that this whole thing is bullshit? Yes. Yes, of course I do. But as far as being able to, you know, go to a judge and say, this is fraud, here's why, I think it's pretty easy to come back with, we have every reason to believe this is true. We're not doing this in bad faith. We are doing this because we have every reason to believe it's true.
Gotcha. No, your claim is incorrect. If the lawyer's assertion is that the intent needed to raise it to the level of fraud is that we have every reason to believe that it is true that Biden is the president-elect, that's simply false. You have no reason at all to believe that Biden is currently the president-elect. Now, that Biden will eventually be the president-elect is a reasonable supposition, but it is not the case currently. The current fact of the matter is that legally, Joe Biden is not the president-elect. And for somebody with Biden's experience and the experience of his legal team and his campaign team to assert that currently he is the president-elect is an absolute fraud. It cannot be reasonably argued that their credentials make it probable to suspect that one of these things could be believed in the face of the current facts. The fact of the matter is he is not the president-elect. So, well, he's going to be, yeah, okay, maybe, even probably, but that doesn't equal he is. I mean, I seem to remember that some 30 seconds before we went into overtime, Georgia was about to win a Super Bowl.
And your point is very well taken there. Okay. Um, and okay, even then, I would still say that in this case, that legally speaking, they're just popping the champagne too early. That yes, he's not technically legally the president elect. However, if we assume that he will be certified as the president elect in 3 weeks, going ahead and doing the work of beginning the transition is logical. Um, just because I don't like it, and just because I am suspicious of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan in particular, um, it's still not unreasonable for him to act in this capacity. Because, a lot of these laws do have a reasonableness test. Well, is it reasonable for him to go ahead and begin the transition to the hardest job on the planet? Yeah, that's reasonable.
Oh, is it? By whose standard?
I'd say by any reasonable standard.
What about by Joe Biden's standard?
I mean,
because by the standard established by Joe Biden through his introduction of the idea of using the Hatch Act to prosecute General Flynn, Joe Biden's standard on this is he can't start the transition yet. And he sure as hell can't be appointing cabinet members whose job it is to represent themselves as official representatives of the United States of America to foreign entities yet.
I'm not
according
saying that
to
he's
Joe
not
Biden's standard.
I'm not saying that he's not a lion sack of hypocritical goat shit. I'm just saying that as far as, like, if I'm, this is one of those where I'm really trying to remove all of my emotion from the argument.
Yeah, me
and
too.
If I do that, I come up with, like, let's say I was Joe Biden, and let's say I was in the exact same position. I would go ahead and start working toward being the president. Ooh, buddy, but I'm about to have a hard out.
Okay. Let's attempt something. Cameron has to get going. I'm gonna try to let Cameron go without blowing up the whole stream. So, I'm gonna try this real quick, and Cameron, I'll just let you know if you can hang up.
Okay.
Or may not. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so you can still hear me. Oh. Sorry, Steve. Sorry, guys, about the headphone use. That didn't seem to work out quite the way I wanted it to. That should be much better. And Cameron, you could probably dip out now.
Sorry to go, guys, but I have job that I have to go back to. Y'all have a good day.
Later. And did that bring me back in? No. Hit over 50. No, damn it, come on. I know you can hear me. Okay, there it is. Damn. See, it'd be better if flipping Cameron could just hang out for the rest of the show, but you got me. I think I got the volume back to a reasonable, manageable level. I may have even gone too low. How's that? Okay. Whew. Sorry. We have the Polak Zaluska. What happened to Zaluska the Slav? Is this another cousin that I don't know yet? Okay, so Cameron had some good pushback on that, reasonable expectations and all, but let me read these comments from Alex. It's no different to what the president is doing. He says he's raising money for the recount, but the money is going to his leadership PAC. One could argue fraud there too. Okay, I've seen some smear claims that Donald Trump is raising money. It's one thing to say that Donald Trump is raising money, and I mean he's raising money for and privately funding as well the legal maneuvers, which under the law he could be using taxpayer money to manage. He could be paying for all the lawfare out of taxpayer money, and he's not. So the fact that some of us are putting our money where our mouths are to help support these legal battles, that's very different. Because the thing with what Biden's doing, Biden is raising money to do something that he's not yet legally allowed to do. Trump is raising money to do something that he is legally allowed to do. Right? So what Biden is doing and what Trump is doing, those are two very different things, Alex. Now, once the Electoral College has actually certified the whole election, and the general services is, once all that's done and Biden actually is the president-elect, then he can do what he's doing now, and that would be perfectly acceptable. But well, that is the difference, Alex. Alex says it's not different. In fact, you could argue it's worse because he's technically raising the money under false pretenses. Yes, I would agree. It is worse for Biden to be raising money under false pretenses. See, and Alex says, whereas Biden is raising money for the transition, except that Biden is not guaranteed the transition now. Trump is absolutely guaranteed the legal right to challenge certain facets of the election, and that challenge is still ongoing. Therefore, what Trump is doing is perfectly in line with the law. Joe Biden is not yet technically, legally, the president-elect. His access to the funding and to the authority to form a government and fund that transition is not yet legally an authority and a right that he holds. So the fact is that Donald Trump is acting perfectly within the law. You know, even if you find it distasteful for the Donald and many of us to disagree with the outcome of the election in its current form, I think, and Alex, I know that you recognize that there have been some serious shenanigans in this election, and that's part of the whole conversation too. But the fact of the matter is, when Joe Biden says, or anyone says Joe Biden is the president-elect, that is a false statement. Joe Biden is raising money using the language, with the office of the president-elect. That is a false claim. There is no such office. He is not the president-elect. So what he's doing right there is, by every metric, fraud. Even when you consider the question of intent, it cannot reasonably be argued that Joe Biden's legal team does not currently understand that he is not currently the president-elect. Right? Now, there's an easy argument that Joe Biden has dementia and doesn't understand the minutia of whether or not he's the president-elect. But yeah, I you could argue fraud in either of their cases, but I am arguing that Donald Trump is not committing fraud because the law is on his side right now, and Biden is committing fraud not only because the law is not on his side currently, but because it is not there is no reasonable expectation that he and his legal team are unaware of the legal status of his claim to the presidency. I'm not even saying that Joe Biden's not likely, and I've said this a few times. You know what, Alex? You showed up late. You missed the top of this, and I already addressed a lot of this shit. So, anyway, I'm not even saying that Joe Biden won't be the president. I hope he's not, obviously. But the fact of the matter is, currently, he's not the president-elect. That's not done yet. So, see, now I've let Alex troll me into losing my train of thought. That's unfortunate. But one of the things that I think is entertaining is that under the arguments put forward by Joe Biden for the explicit purpose of obstructing the Trump transition team back in 2016 and 2017, he and his potential transitionees are currently acting in precisely the same violation of the Hatch Act as he and his ilk alleged against Flynn at the time. Now, it's also important to point out that Flynn was not convicted of a violation of the Hatch Act. Flynn got in trouble when he got backed into a corner and basically perjury trapped. So that's a little different. And the Hatch Act is not something that's been functionally useful in the past. Nobody's been successfully prosecuted under the Hatch Act, like I mentioned earlier. But the broader point there is we're watching Biden do the thing that they accused Flynn of doing, and which we now know to have been done for the express purpose of obstructing the Donald Trump transition to prevent him from having a smooth takeover of power in a legal election, right? Okay, Alex, I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to stop messing with your text for just a minute because you've got me off track. In fact, I think I'm probably just gonna go ahead and wrap it up in just a second here. I don't know how this is gonna shake out. I don't. I'm still somewhat hopeful. There are some developments that are less positive than I would prefer they be. There are some developments that are positive that I did not expect. I've heard some news that there's to be a second recount in Georgia that includes some sort of signature verification. That would be nice, since Raffensperger and Kemp led us through an absolutely bullshit farce of an audit. That would be... We got a bullshit fake audit and still found 5,000 more votes for Trump in the state of Georgia. And that was with a fake audit. That was with a weak audit. Essentially a simple recount, a simple hand recounting of the votes, right? So the idea that it's an absolutely foregone conclusion, I don't buy it. I think there's still some stuff to come out. Now, it is also the case that there's a timeline. And that timeline is upon us. It's rapidly approaching. There's only a couple of weeks left before there's just no more argument to be had. So we'll see how that shakes out. I'm less hopeful than I'd like to be, but I remain optimistic. So we will see you guys tomorrow morning. You be safe out there, and